be the front line. Barras makes it 10 times harder because now objectives is going to be a tough contest with the Daytona's welcome. For FCON's side, they just gotta make sure that C9 doesn't move too fast.
I worry about the crowd control from the side of Falcon Esports. Definitely has got quite a lot to work around. But ladies and gentlemen, we are gonna be finally jumping into the very first game of today. Day number 1 here in Stream B. It's Cloud9 versus Falcon Esports.
Yeah, I think right off the bat, we're seeing that Cold War is going to get some info on where Daxis forces out the red tree at the purple buff. That is kind of the protocol, what you want to look at, but I also like that Kid X is trying to get priority for PX7. As an Arlet at level 1, you have incredible base damage with your Vengeance, and you just want to give as much pressure to the enemy mid laner as you possibly can, but Cloud9 able to stem the early aggression and keep this mid lane under control.
So coming into looking at lane priorities all across the board, right? We're definitely gonna be expecting quite a bit of movements in the middle lane with a dual setup from the middle lane. We've got the Valentina definitely always have got great priority over many other mages out there, but having an Arlet that's just constantly in the middle lane definitely poses quite a bit of threat for the Valentina before he can just start roaming around again.
Yeah, and I want to quickly point out something, right? I talked about Benny being one of the few Moscow players who just goes Inspire. Look at him. He has Inspire as his battle spell, and he did try to go for the Inspire cheese at level 1, where you just try to win the lane by man-fighting your opponent. Unfortunately, basic is not affected, so Benny, you just have to take it as it is. I can't push him out of the lane, so I'll just have to play it normally as I possibly can. All things considered, so far, whatever we've expected from both teams is true, but with Dax being found out, that means that Cloud9 have sufficient info. Falcons, they're waiting for PX7 and Royal Milk to hit level 4, and then it's about the turtle contest.
With the Aurora already heading into the top lane, they want to assist as much as possible. But Cloud9, they have jumped themselves onto Kid X and showed themselves in the middle lane, allowing Falcon Esports to actually take the priority off of the Lord. But we are expecting a 4 versus 5 fight as Royal Milk immediately jump right in with the Earth Shatter, followed by a flicker as the turtle will be taken by the hands of Boba Zane. They have came here for what they wanted, and Kid X is going to be falling down as the first blood. Falcon Esports, they are losing 3 men right off the bat. Cloud9 looks at this game smiling.
Yeah, this is the worst possible opening. I mean, PX7 keeps his passive, I believe, loses the flicker, all battle spells used by the side of Falcon Esports. That turtle fight really felt like it shouldn't have gone that way. I think Falcons, you just need to give it up. Kid X is not, has already lost his flicker. You realize that Mark QT stole the Primal Wrath, so that's just extra damage from the side of Cloud9. And when you look at this replay, Benny, he was thinking whether he wants to show up to the fight, but thankfully he didn't, because that would have been kill number 4. We've established that Cloud9, they have tank shredders, they can play fast, they have good objective control, and the fact that Falcons took that fight and lost Tree and the turtle is just a disastrous opening.
Definitely not the early game setup that they are trying to look out for. I mean, having 3% just going down, despite having the turtle priority in the initial phase, it definitely looked like Falcon is gonna be super prepared and wanting to go for that. In fact, I think it was a 4-man Earth Shatter coming from Royal Milk. I thought that was actually pretty darn good, but perhaps it took a little bit more time for the rest of the members from Falcon Esports to really respond to that. And fortunately, it also boils down to Cloud9 being able to retaliate pretty effectively.
Yeah, and I think what Falcons failed to recognize in that situation is the fact that not only I feel like there was a bit of disconnect in their calls, and effective. I believe Fredrin Dax didn't even get to use his Appraiser's Wrath for the entire fight just because he was crowd controlled so hard. And sure, you got a good final slash, but the next question is, where is the damage going to come from FCON? And unfortunately, they just do not have enough output. With that start, Cloud9, fantastic position, but for FCON, you might have to start considering slowing down the game, just trying to recover in terms of controlling the lane and getting the resources for your teammates. And maybe when the next turtle comes, you just have to consider giving it away to Cloud9, because if another team fight goes awry, I fear that Cloud9 would go out of control.
Definitely feels like a game of attrition for the side of Falcon. They can lock down for quite a bit of time, but unfortunately, when it really boils down to dealing damage during all this lockdown duration, is primarily absent. So Falcon, they need a little bit more time to actually ramp up, and definitely with this first 3 deaths is not gonna be all that great. They're gonna have to slow things down a bit, as you have said, Husky, and they're probably gonna stay back in their lane for for a bit as well. But unfortunately, this also enforces the very fact that Cloud9 is a very aggressive team, and the fact that they will literally pull any game plan that they want very effectively and without hesitation at all with the leadership of Mobazane.
Yeah, and another thing that Cloud9 has in terms of advantage over FCON is something that I did point out earlier on, right? The mobility that the Matilda provides. And then when you look at the chase potentials, if FCON loses a fight and wants to retreat, it is incredibly hard because you have the Matilda Express from Cold War. He's going to bring his teammates to try and chase you down. So that's something that FCON needs to eventually take into account as the game progresses. If they fall behind even more, that's where this draft from C9 becomes utterly deadly. And not only is good at shredding tanks, but when the Lord comes around, as much as we say Lord dances are a bit more technical, Cloud9 just have so much true damage to shred through the Lord. And remember, Lord right now has a 30% increase in max HP when it's summoned, which means it just takes it just takes a bit longer to take it down, even when it's just the first Lord.
Yeah, I mean, since we are on that topic, right? I also pretty much want to look at wave clear coming in from both Cloud9 as well as Falcon Esports. How good are they when they are actually playing from behind? Whenever they have their back against the wall, definitely when it comes down to Falcon, they have Benny, right? So if you want to go for a couple of split pushes here and there, or you're trying to clear up the waves, I don't think that they might have that big of a problem. So Cloud9 getting themselves the early start and having the great aggression in the early game, I think that this pretty much paves the way for their entire strategy.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a 2k goal advantage for Cloud9 just off of that first interaction, right, at the turtle fight. So that's something that I think is not too big of a lead just yet, but definitely something that Cloud9 is going to feel happy about, because all your core targets, all your core members got the kill. Mobazane got one, Milo got one, MarQT got one, and he's also sporting the MSC 2024 edition Valentina skins, which I absolutely adore. But you look at this fight, I feel like Cloud9, they want more.
Yep, as Dex was hoping that he'll be able to run away, but unfortunately the final slash is just going to be connecting on Dex. But immediately after that, the Praetor's Ref connects. He gets his HP back a little bit, but it's not going to help too much. As Cloud9 with the guiding win, Cold World managed to bring Mobazane right out of the team fight, and they're going to be pretty much safe and sound with only a 1-for-1 trade.
Not enough damage from Falcons for the second time, and that one is a lot more apparent. Dax survived for long enough, lands a treatment appraiser's wrath, gives his life away, only to not have Falcons get anything in return. I believe they only took down Basic.
Got Basic though.
That's okay, but in the grand scheme of things, Cloud9, they're fine with it, right? The kill from Basic went over to Kid X, which you would have loved it if it went to anyone else. Even Milo is a full level ahead of Royal Milk. Second turtle is up.
As we have the turtle currently going down, Dax is going to be the one that claims the credit for that. And for now, Falcon Esports, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be responding in kind, as they're just going to be focusing down on MarQT, but Mobazane goes right in with a quick little ultimate. Unfortunately, Dax is going to be caught up in the middle of all of that. As thus, he's going to go down together with Kid X, and Cloud9 secures 2 kills and a free orange buff.
Turtle taken by Falcons, but for the third time in a row, not enough damage. Dax didn't even get to use his ultimate. That fight because he was gobbled up by Milo right before that, and that puts Mobazane 2 levels ahead of Dax. A tragedy for the Fredrin. This is the exact situation you don't want to be in as a Fredrin into a lineup with, you know, Carry and Alpha. If you can't survive in a fight, you are basically ineffective. Not to mention that Milo has been keeping his gears locked onto this Fredrin.
Especially since Fredrin really plays around with HP. You really want to bring yourself down low enough to get a lot of that grey health in order to unleash that one big Appraiser's Wrath. But as we talked about it before, right? We're looking at the carry and the alpha. It's not something that this Fredrin will have all the time in the world to just bump up in the amount of HP that you have and really just play possum. he gotta have to react fast enough and really try to go for it. In fact, you see, Dax was really holding off on his Perizal's wrap, and only at the final seconds he tried to put it out, but a little bit too late.
They want to find the jungle again.
Yep, it doesn't seem like things are going to be looking very well for Falcon Esports, as the Deadlands World Cup just going to be connected down onto Dax, dying down once again, 4th time in a row. We did have the final slash that did connect onto Mobazane though, but it's not going to be that big of a difference.
I don't think there's enough damage from Falcons. In fact, Mobazane, if he wants to turn, he can.
Ouch.
Even use a conceal. Unfortunately, KidX gets swiped to the grave. Cloud9 pumping up the tempo. This is Falcons Esports' worst nightmare.
It doesn't seem like things are going to be great at all. Cloud9 with currently with 8 kills and Falcon Esports with only 1. And they're now even going to be focusing the bottom lane. But Benny turned things around a tad little bit. He did manage to bring the Mathilda down, but unfortunately the main guy, Basic, is still alive.
Best case scenario, I suppose. You could have asked for a better trade, at least as a 1-for-1. Would have loved to take down Basic, but Falcons arriving at the third turtle.
Without the Moskov coming in, Dax still somehow did manage to take the turtle away from Cloud9. Mobazane definitely not happy about that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, Dax, as much as the game is still going horribly for him, he's won 2 retreat fights under level compared when he went up against Mobazane. So that's something good for FCon, right? They are almost close to the 3,000 deficit mark, but all things considered, this is still recoverable for Falcons Esports. They've managed to stem the bleeding a little bit, only losing the bottom tier 1, all things considered, and Royal Milk just broke the top tier 1 of Cloud9. And that means Falcons, they've gotten some space for themselves, and this is beneficial, especially when you want Benny to sustain.
They're really definitely gonna have to bide their time and find the right opportunity to really just jump right in for an all-out team fight. But we gotta have to look out for the main playmakers of Falcon Esports. Is Benny really available, and is Benny really ready for those kind of fights? And in the meantime, PX7 as well. He's currently been stuck in the middle lane for quite a tad bit and unable to really come in for being very pivotal in fights. We don't really quite see that much of an impact, unfortunately. For now, we're just going to be looking at the middle lane. His HP is not looking good. PX7, not looking good. Recalling, and as for the side of Cloud9, I think that they're more or less ready to try to bring down this facility defense turret.
Yeah, PX7 lost the flicker, has no more passive to work with, but Falcons arrived just in time to defend this tier 1. Both sides did trade their final side lane tier 1, so far, state of the game, even Falcons Esports not letting Cloud9 get too far.
The side lane game is done. And everyone is probably going to double dip themselves into the middle lane to try to bring down the first defense turret. This is a game of river control. Whoever's able to bring down the first defense turret here is ultimately going to get a big boost in commanding the opponent's jungle.
We talk about the setup that Falcons Esports have with this Arlet, right? That's something that Cloud9 would need to be constantly reminding themselves of. Glowing Wana purchased by PX7, that's going to severely impede Cold War's effectiveness with the Mathilda. We'll see if this Lord fight is going to turn out in that way.
With the Lord currently being pulled out, Falcon Esports itself, Cloud9 understands that it is very scary. This Lord is very daunting, and holding on to the Lord for as period of time is not going to be good, as the final slash is going to be connecting down on the 2. He wants to get himself in the heart of the battle, as now they're just going to be focusing on the Kid X. He went in a little bit too deep, and unfortunately, Falcon Esports wasn't able to help him too much. With Royal Milk coming in on the second part of the fight, he's going to be whittled down to the all-time low too. And Cloud9 succeeded in this fight against Falcon Esports without losing a single one.
I don't think Falcons can even attempt to steal this Dax. He might just have to give himself away. He might even go down.
I'm surprised that they even tried to try to challenge for this, as the rest of Cloud9 focuses onto Dax, brings him down immediately while Mobazane stayed behind to bring the Lord down.
Look, I think Falcons, they gotta start cleaning up their communications a little bit. Kid X got sold out by his team. He got an incredible engage, and all he needed was PX7 and Royal Milk to press their buttons at the exact same time. But you saw the delay follow-up from Royal Milk's onwards basically allowed Cloud9 to have time to react to that engage, and the rest was history. Benny, he wanted to put out damage, but the synchronization just prevented that from happening to FCon. So the synergy from Falcons, they gotta clean it up, because Kid X, he's been getting some good sets, but his teammates isn't pulling their weight.
So they always have got the great initiation, But when it comes down to following up, it's not quite that. Despite having a lineup that has a lot of crowd control coming from the Edith, and even the Fredrin himself. And perhaps we are even taking a look at PX7. In fact, every single one of them have got a crowd control of their own, as long as they manage to get the communications up and running. So Husky pretty much got the nail in the head, right? We need the communications coming from the side of Falcon Esports to be a lot more precise, and they gotta have to call out each of these shots and all of these skill shots.
Yeah. Luckily, they still defend all the inhibitors. That's the least silver lining. 6k gold behind Cloud9 at this point in time. We know for a fact that Benny, he's gonna have damage for sure. He's been able to farm up a storm this entire game, and he is going to be the linchpin of FCON as this game progresses, right? We're gonna head into that late game pretty soon, but again, it comes down to whether Falcons can get that perfect set, give Benny the space to dish out the damage. KidX and Royal Milk, you gotta start working on the synergy a little bit, because KidX, he's been doing his job, but the rest of the team, they gotta be able to follow up. They recognize that Dax is not easy for Dax to survive in a face of basic Mobile Zane and Mielo, but they have an idea on how to pull it off, and it's now a matter of executing.
I think that right now, even if Dax has been constantly sacrificing himself for the greater good of FCON, I think that FCON gotta have to look at another way of playing. Like, even if Dax is gonna go down, they gotta have to trade it out one way or another. Because Benny, yes, he's been farming quite a bit, but perhaps he just don't have enough of those items to really execute anyone in Cloud9 just yet. And we are coming into 12 minutes of the game. I believe that once we hit about 15 minutes of the game where Dax is able to contest for Lord when both junglers are level 15, that is probably gonna be FCON's game.
Yeah. And something that I think Cloud9, RQT has been doing well as well is that multiple choices of ultimates, right? It's either I steal the Final Slash, Primal Wrath, or even I steal Aura's ultimate if FCON wants to run at me. Because Cloud9, they have the priority looking for another fight.
Yep. It does seem Cold trying to go for the Circling Eagle, working with Milo for that guiding win. Unfortunately, it's not exactly what they wanted. Milo got stopped halfway through and wasn't able to follow Coldwell all the way through. So, missed out the initiation, but that's fine. It was not that much of a committal Circling Eagle from the side of Matilda. So that's gonna be fine and dandy for now.
Best case scenario, well, he did hit someone with the second half of Circling Eagle, right? So the cooldown reduction did apply for Cold World. Side lanes in favor of Falcons, especially top part. FCON has set up the top lane, so this is definitely a lore that they can try and juggle, but Cloud9, they have a lot of damage to run through it if they want to. We'll see if FCON can manage to find the cash. Royal Milk and KidX on different sides of the pit.
Still trying to contest for this. Falcon Esports, they are going and raring to go. As the Daedalus World Cup just going to be connecting down on the Fredrin. Dax still manages to take the Lord for himself. Cloud9 now just going to be going on for an aggressive front. They want to bring Dax down as much as possible. He just immediately jumps himself forward, but wasn't able to do quite much. As Benny, he brings himself and jumps back. And he's going to be safe and sound now. Royal Milk and Dax may have went down, but they have the Lord.
Oh my goodness. Dax, despite under level, constantly 2 levels behind Mobile Zane, has won 3 consecutive retreat fight. And Cloud9, they had the right idea, right? Like Mielo, he gobbled up Dax, they control him, and somehow he got the Lord for his team. Saving grace for Falcons. Sure, they might not be able to make a lot out of this, but at least Falcons have found a lifeline in this game. They only have 3 kills overall, but who cares? Benny, he's coming online.
Dax really have got his eye on the prize. Constantly winning in all these challenges. In fact, I wouldn't have thought that Dax would be able to win. Like, how in the world did that even happen? Probably Royal Milk jumping all the way into the into 4-man probably bought them a lot of time, and probably just made Cloud9 just tunnel vision onto Royal Milk as much as possible. So every single one of these deaths definitely contributed to the cause of Falcon Esports wanting to get themselves the Lord. They did manage to bring the inhibitor turret in the top lane down to half health. That gives Falcon Esports so much more room to breathe.
Yeah, I'm gonna quickly talk about the deficit in terms of gold. Majority of Cloud9's gold lead actually comes from the jungle gap, right? Mobile Zane has like what, a 5k gold advantage over Dax. That's pretty much it. Everyone else is on this almost the same level in terms of network. So that means that Cloud9's net worth can be considered as inflated. They want to look for Dax.
They're all just going to be jumping onto Dax once again. They are not going to be stopping until Dax is finally dead. But Cloud9 realizes that all of their skill shots is just not connecting and immediately retreated out of that.
Yeah. I think Cloud9 needs to start understanding that only MobileZane has an advantage in terms of net worth, and that is not going to matter as much at this point of the time. Everyone else on Falcons, they are keeping up. So this total kill is a bit deceptive for those who don't look at the individual net worth, which means look at Falcons Esports. They're starting to take up more space. They're starting to get a lot more confident, and that means that Cloud9, one mistake could lose them game number
6,000 goal lead definitely looks a lot, but how Falcon Esports is playing doesn't feel like they are playing from behind of 6,000. Cloud9, on the other hand, though, it seems like they are definitely trying to be as aggressive as they can, but in the meantime, they gotta have to show as much respect as they can to Falcon Esports, because we have mentioned before, Falcon Esports lineup is chock full of crowd control. The moment that they position themselves wrongly, that is probably going to be a game for Falcon Esports to immediately turn around on.
Yeah, it's all about looking for Benny. If they can catch Benny and take him down, then Falcons just runs out of steam in an instant. Malefic Raw just got purchased, I believe, by the Smoskov, so he's basically decked out. Even went for extra attack speed on the boot, so Benny is all about damage. Royal Milk out of position.
And does seem like he's not gonna be caught out just yet. And such, Circling Eagle is gonna be taken away. Cloud9 probably don't have a lot of utility or any skills to really catch up to Benny, which might actually be one of the main problems that Cloud9 might experience in the later parts of the team fight. The Kid X did manage to connect onto the final slash, but it's pretty much just gonna be a little bit of harassment as Benny focuses himself onto Coldwell. Exactly what I'm talking about. No one is there to really deal with Benny as such. He's just gonna be jumping in, and he's gonna be focusing on the MobileZane next. MobileZane immediately goes right in with his ultimate and tries to go for a kill, but unfortunately, he's gonna be taken down. Benny picks up a double, well, basically just gonna be continuing on to go on for a rampage. But now Benny is focusing on to kills after kills after kills, picking himself with a triple. He might want to go for Milo, but he flickers himself away. He just
oh my goodness!
Hoping to do something to Benny, wasn't able to at all.
MarQT tried to save his team, but Benny is just too strong. They should be able to defend this inhibitor, I think. Maybe Benny would just power through it. It seems like MarQT keeps the structure alive. Lord, I believe, was taken by the side of Falcons in that chaos.
Again?
So Cloud9, they have essentially lost whatever lead they've gotten. We talked about the only net worth advantage that they have was from MobileZane. Look at this fight, right? Royal Milk goes to engage. He sacrifices his life to get MobileZane, but Benny uncontested the entire fight. Basically, he was put so far behind by Kid X, and when he rejoins the fight, Benny, he just loses out on the one timing, the Winds of Nature being used by Benny afterwards to survive that one-on-one. And Falcons have completely recovered from that early game. This right now, it's Cloud9's turns to experience a nightmare.
Sheer discipline from the side of Falcon Esports, having the priority over the Lord and being able to just burst down the Lord with that tiny bit of health is definitely possible. However, they dragged it on a little bit longer than expected, and they forced MobileZane to go into a very unexpected position as he just jumps right in with his ultimate, hoping that he will be able to go in for the last hit with the Retribution. But with that all said and done, Falcon Esports did not touch the Lord at all. As such, they did manage to force MobileZane in a bad position, bring him down, then subsequently get the Lord for themselves and clean things up.
Yeah, Falcons Esports in the driver's seat right now. Cloud9 wants to look for more. They did find Royal Milk with the help of the Daytona's Welcome, I believe. But either way, net worth don't matter at this point. We've reached critical mass. We've reached the late game for both teams. And right now, Falcons, they just gotta wait for Royal Milk to come back. But C9 doesn't want to wait.
Focus on Benny. That is probably gonna be the game plan for Cloud9 at this point in time. Does MobileZane want to reserve his ultimate just for Benny? Or do we want to see the Circling Eagle being reserved for Benny at all? Because with the great amount of mobility that Benny has in his kit, I think that Cloud9 will definitely have a lot of troubles just reaching out.
I think Falcons FCON have also figured out that no Daytona's Welcome means Cloud9 loses basically their only guaranteed crowd control, right? Their only suppression of a sort. So Mielo misses that out. Falcons, there's so much space for Dax and Kid X to navigate around, and even Royal Milk. And again, Benny, if he's untouched, then Cloud9 is gonna have, it's gonna prepare for a world of hurt. And basic, he experienced it in that third Lord fight where he walks a bit too far forward. Kid X basically displaces him. So that is something that basically also needs to take into account for next Lord spawning on the top side.
Even though we have the inhibitor turret at the top and the middle lane taken down from the side of Cloud9, this doesn't immediately say that Cloud9 is out of the game just yet. In the meantime, Denanas welcome, connecting down onto Royal Milk. He's still gonna be alive though. He does an immortality, flickers himself right out of that, and all things said and done, Falcon Esports didn't lose anyone but immortality.
Yep. Both actually laners lost the immortality, but Falcons Esports gains priority off the Lord pick because top wave was pushing in. So basically needs to deal with that. But Lord is pretty strong. Falcons Esports is going to bum rush through it. Not a problem. Lord number 4 for the Myanmar representatives. And this could be the death sentence for Cloud9 if Falcons, they just need one last push. And only one inhibitor stands for Cloud9.
We mentioned this in the early stage of the game where Cloud9 doesn't exactly have very good wave clear as compared to Falcon Esports. Falcon Esports is a lineup that can really play from behind very effectively, especially since we're looking at a Moskov versus a carry kind of situation. Sure, you might be able to burst down the Lord pretty effectively for this out of Cloud9, but when it comes down to the rest of the wave that's just going to be marching in, you may have a lot of problems essentially dealing with that. As such, the Lord marches in, ready to pillage everything that Cloud9 holds dear. The Detonators welcome still going to be connecting it, slams Kid X into PX9, PX7, but it doesn't seem like it's going to do much as Falcon Esports focuses onto the throne and the core gets destroyed. Falcon Esports takes game number 1 away from Cloud9.
Yeah, crystal shattered. Falcons Esports manages a incredible recovery off of the efforts of everyone, right? The adjustments from mid to late game in terms of how we take the fight. Sure, early game was a bit sloppy, you know, they kind of dropped the ball a little bit. Kid X getting sold up by his team, but Benny farmed up Dax, basically retreat gapping Mobazane from mid to late game, winning 2 out of 3 hurdle fights under level and even Lord retreat fights as well. So props to Falcon Esports from keeping a cool head, because when you look at the first 6 minutes, you think that this is over for Falcons, right? Cloud9 was so far ahead. How did it all go so wrong? But Falcons just were able to find opportunities to readjust their gameplay and punish Cloud9 for not respecting the power spike that Falcons have.
It's definitely difficult for the fans of Cloud9 to be watching this game, as they have got clearly the lead. EXP lead, gold lead and everything, but Dax just comes in to just steal everything that Cloud9 absolutely holds dear and true. And looking at EXP differences, how is he even supposed to be able to take all these Lord dances, and how is he even supposed to steal things away from Cloud9? That's not supposed to happen. So Cloud9, they gotta have to... Right now, it's more of the communication with Cloud9 now. Do they want to focus on the Lord? Do they want to call things out together so that they can time the retribution together with some of the other burst skills? What exactly is Falcon doing so right? It really boils down to discipline for me.
I think the beginning of the turning point for this game was definitely second Lord, right? When Dax basically stole the Lord somehow. Watching that replay, I felt like maybe Mobazane was stuck in the animation of his ultimate and wasn't able to get the retreat. Either way, that kind of gave Falcons Esports a way back into the game. But the true moment where Falcons basically cemented that their spot in game 1 was the third Lord fight, where both junglers went down. Benny completely just tear apart the entire C9 roster, and amidst the chaos, PX7's Aurora secured the Lord for his team. So, you know, a lot of things went right for Falcons for sure, but you have to commend, I think, Benny in game 1 just performed immaculately to drag his team across the finishing line and put them in a state where they can finally fight C9 with impunity.
I say is sheer willpower coming from FCon. Whatever that they did in the early game, it didn't quite work out, but they still have a game plan that they want to focus on. And one of the core strategies have already been leaked out from the side of Falcon. Whenever they have the priority of the Lord, and they know that they can force the opponent's jungler to jump into the middle of the action, they will eventually do that. They forced the Spear of Alpha from the side of Mobazane for the third Lord, while none of the Falcons members touched the Lord, even when the Lord is literally at its sliver of health. There is definitely that level of anxiousness that is poured onto Mobazane, whereby he will keep thinking, if there's a gap between me and the Lord, how am I supposed to react in time? As such, he did react. He reacted by going in with Spiller Alpha and hoping that he'll be able to stay alive long enough for that final retribution, but it didn't quite work out for them because the moment he went in, everyone from Falcon focused him down.
And I think it's just a very good spot for Falcons to be in. Great momentum booster for game 1. I'm just looking forward to see if they can keep this up.
I'm excited to see game number 2 now. Is it going to be a 2-0 in favor for Falcons, or will Cloud9 be able to clap back? Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go off a short break, and once we are back, we will bring you the conclusion of this series between Cloud9 versus Falcon Esports. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the B stream of the Mid-Season Cup 2024 here at Esports World Cup at Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. We've got game number 1 of match number 1 that has just concluded, with Cloud9 unfortunately losing over to Falcon Esports by 1 point, as we are about to jump in for the second game very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think game 1 has already defied a lot of expectations, right? We've set it up, both teams looking for redemption, a few by their own agendas, but Cloud9 letting the ball slip a little bit, and Falcons managing an incredible recovery at the very end to take down Cloud9 in game 1. That's the morale boost that if you are FCON, you're definitely going to try to hold on to moving into game number 2. Even the headline for this series is, can the Falcons soar above the clouds? And they are 1 game away from being above Cloud9.
I think that they are pretty much gonna be flying on a par with Cloud9 now. If whether they can go above, that is all dependent on game number 2. A quick recap as to what pretty much went on in game number 1. We've got immaculate draft coming from both sides. We've got Cloud9 with a draft that pretty much stretched through Dax throughout the entirety of the game, putting Dax in a really tough spot with lack of gold, lack of health, and pretty much lack of EXP and everything. But somehow Dax and his entire team, through sheer willpower, still managed to soldier on and steal turtles after lords, and they eventually got themselves a win after a very disciplined game from the 3rd lord onwards.
Yeah, I mean, Dax won 4 out of 7 objectives against Mobile Zane. That gives you a very good idea of kind of the disparity we see in game 1. But now it's time to switch sides. FCON on blue, C9 on red. We're getting almost the exact same opening bans with a bit of deviation, right? FCON opting to take out the Arlet instead.
So now with the Loyi Arlet chip as well as Harif being thrown right into the banning pool, does C9 want to go for a little bit of a respect ban here? Do they identify that the Fredrin is gonna be pretty annoying, or is it all just the fact that Dax is just doing Dax's thing? Or do they want to look for some proper answers over to the Moskov? Because Moskov have pretty much got free reign in team fights as long as Cloud9's Matilda ran out of his Circling Eagle. So Cloud9's lineup for this upcoming game might actually focus a little bit more over to the back lines of Falcon, because they don't really have an answer to that in the previous.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the PX7 actually is not going to get Faramis again, or FCON, they're the one that takes liberty in banning it, but they do have access to a Valentina first pick if they want, right? Roger is also left open if this Angela bans go through, and it will from C9, which means right now you're looking at Roger, you're looking at Matilda, looking at Valentina. Roger becomes the option for FCON. Great hero in this meta with the war cry, and on top of that, great flex pick.
With the very first pick coming from FCON with a Roger, we definitely have the idea that Cloud9 might want to retaliate with a Moskov onto their side. Understandably, for the side of Falcon, they are not that afraid of Benny. They already have probably an answer that they want to have onto the side, and probably just more on a backline kind of team comp for the side of Falcon. Do they want to go for a little bit of a dive kind of game? Because maybe they just want to focus on early game and try to snowball out of control.
I suppose we have to see the rest of the draft right now.
Backline jumps.
At least for the side of, yeah, I mean, for C9, right? At least you have some late game insurance, right? You have a Swiss Army knife with the Valentina. You have the Moskov, which you kind of took away from Benny if this is going to be a Roger jungle. But instant Terizla and Ruby. So FCON, they're not hiding anything, right? Terizla XP, Ruby roam. I've seen examples of certain teams putting Terizla mid, but I would hope that's not the case. It is a very honest draft of FCON, but it also means that they have an abundance of setup to allow this Roger to kind of activate in team fights.
So going on with the first 3 core picks from Falcon, they have already established that they definitely want to play for a lot more team fights, right? They want to look for crowd control. They will want to look at all the kind of jazz. So for Cloud9, they will probably want to respond with mages that plays in an AoE view, or perhaps someone with immaculate high ground. Heroes such as Yves as well as Fasa, which we have seen a resurgence of, might be one of the few priority bans from Cloud9.
So we see the alpha again for Mobile Zane for C9. Right now, FCon still have not picked their mid laners yet. We are not really sure if this is going to be a Dax Roger or it's going to be a Benny Roger. If you want to ban heroes right now, I think Cloud9 will be probably looking at mid laners, trying to limit what PX7 has. I'm looking at Novaria right off the bat because Novaria for FCon is such a good pick with the Astro Echo. You magnified hitboxes not just for Terizla but also for Ruby, enabling great catches. But they are also forced to ban out the Aurora because Aurora in their previous game is just so annoying, stopping dives from people like Mozane and stopping C9 from playing this I run in your face and I roll you over. It is not possible when the Aurora is there to freeze
So
you.
lane priority is definitely something that we have talked about pre-game of game number 1. And with a Valentina right here from the side of C9, Falcon, they do have quite a bit of choices they would want to go for. They still have a little bit of flex options, as Husky has mentioned, with the Terizla in the mid being one of the possible thing. And if that's actually gonna be the case, will Ruby also gonna be flexed over to EXP, or is it already solidified over to the roam role?
I mean, if you have a Terizla, it's probably roam, right? But with this Ether ban, it does kind of play into what my speculation is. I believe that Falcons have played Terizla mid before. It is, I wouldn't say it's an ideal pick, but it basically acts as a sandbag, right? You just allow Terizla, I'm not going to go down early on. I can rotate easily to join fights, and I do the exact same thing of setting up for team fights. So Baraz is going to be the choice. Now the export gets banned out by FCon. Baraz is still one of the few picks that has a guaranteed crowd control, and the suppression allows you to easily win objective fights and keep targets in check. But the Pharsa actually is the choice. So Pharsa mid, we're going to get the Roger jungle, and that means it's a Ruby gold
Honestly,
lane.
I'm kind of surprised that Cloud9 didn't focus on high ground mage that excels in team fights. In fact, going over to the ban on Edith is definitely something relatively surprising from me. But Falcon picking up the Fasta is definitely fits into their MO, and when it comes down to picking out the Florin, it works perfectly when it comes down to for the Terizla as well as the Ruby. We're not really just looking at the fact that there is global presence, but the shred away of anti-heal potential from Cloud9 using those glowing wands or dominance eyes, shredding all of those debuffs. Definitely great to see.
Yeah, I think on top of that is also the fact that Cloud9 hasn't picked their roamer just yet. They're keeping it for last, and Florian would have been a great option for heroes like this Alpha, right? You basically allow the Alpha to stay alive a lot longer in team fights in the early phase, and just enable that snowballing capability. So I think FCon, they definitely ran into this very well. And if this Roger gets a hit, it is going to be quite a mess for Cloud9 to deal with, right? Because I don't think Valentina and Moskov would want to deal with a raging Lycan that is ahead in that early game.
Yep. I mean, I think that Cloud9 may not be that afraid of this Roger this early into the game, right? I mean, his claws definitely would not be as sharp as later into the game, especially since we are looking at the Roger going up against a Moskov, which understandably would have a lot of a tougher time to actually just snowball the control. But okay, I completely forgot about this possible thing.
It's a Ruby,
Yeah.
it's a Ruby go. Yeah, it's a Ruby go. I mean,
yay!
yeah, I mean what the Ruby go wants to do is just a sandbag, right? Like it's like a Terizla, basically side lanes for FCon. Yeah, I mean even Terizla side lane, right? Like both side lanes for Falcons is just sandbag. You know, you don't leave the lane, you don't take me down. I keep my structures alive, and that's the modus operandi. Of course, Cloud9, they're gonna take priority over the Little Wanderer. Good coverage early on. It's all about to see whether Mobile Zane gets ahead first, or it's going to be Dax, who is going to Quantum Charge instead of the Warcry. Mobile Zane taking killing spree of all things.
I actually, now that I think about it, it's actually pretty nice to see that Roger is going over to the jungle instead. Especially since if he's going to be paired up with this Moskov, he's definitely not going to be getting that snowball factor into the game that early. Especially since their team definitely goes around this Roger and the Fasa for damage. in the early stages. So getting this Roger out of the gold lane is definitely going to be fine. And especially since we are looking at the roaming trio of Florin as well as Fasa, this Roger can stay alive throughout all of these situations, and he can still deal some mean damage, as you can see in the middle lane, already threatening Marcuti 1 minute and 30 seconds into the game.
Very good patience. Dax waited for Marcuti to walk as close as possible. Forced out the flicker. Would have been nice if he got first blood, but either way, Dax himself is single-handedly taking out space in this bush. It's not the easiest for Cloud9 to walk up forward, though Mobile Zane has the experience advantage. So if he drags this long enough, he's going to be at level 5, and that's going to give him that edge in securing this turtle fight. Both teams, they want that level 4 on that mid XP lane.
I feel that Cloud9's lineup right now have pretty much the same kind of problems in the previous game, right? When it comes down to jumping over to the back lines of Falcon. Can they even catch anyone at this point? But for now, that is welcome from Milo, connected down onto Royal Milk. And unfortunately for them, Royal Milk finds himself taken down. Dax is going to be the next one onto the chopping block, while Cloud9 does the same thing as game number 1, bringing good amount of people down while taking the turtle.
Very well executed by Cloud9. Falcon Esports again, tunnel visioning, and Spear of Destruction connects from basic as a free kill delivered to the Moscow. Best case scenario for Cloud9. Just like game 1, they're off to a great start. 2k gold advantage, just like that.
Especially since we want to see a Roger steamrolling out of control. This is not the game. This is not the result that Falcon essentially would want to see. We want to address a couple of we definitely want to address a couple of issues for both teams and what they want to initially achieve in the stage, right? Falcon Esports, they won their early game using the Roger as well as the Fasa. But in the meantime, Cloud9, they want to completely destroy the side lanes, right? Especially when it comes down to Moskov going up against Ruby. Moskov is definitely gonna have a great time, considering the fact that he's currently 2.3k gold on 2.3k gold in terms of economy, and Ruby somehow still managing to get 2k for himself.
Yeah, I mean, again, Ruby Benny is going to be a sandbag this entire game. As long as you don't lose that top tier 1 and you are able to lock your opponents in lane, that is good enough. Although for basic, he has the ultimate, so he can navigate cross map if he is needed. Right now, I think they've been, I'm not sure if they were able to steal the purple buff away from Dax, and if they were able to, then it means that Dax is just going to have a rough time just like the previous game, right? Mobile Zane is 3 levels ahead of him at this point of time.
Are we going to be seeing a repeat of game number 1? That is always going to be the question for now. As 15 seconds, as we are going to be looking at the total in 15 seconds, Cloud9 readies themselves up by getting quite a bit of control in the river. Down at the bottom though, Royal Milk with a nice little flicker though. He makes sure that he's going to be out of sight and out of mind from Cloud9. Milo himself also expended his own.
Yeah, but
oh wow.
PX7 in the jungle. The rotation from Cloud9 is just on point, and the fact that Mielo got out means that Falcon Esports, they used all that for nothing, and even losing their own mid lane in the process. Second death for the Farsa. Turtle is now up on the top side, and I don't see a way for Falcon Esports to contest.
No, not at all. I think that contesting this is going to be a death wish, and especially since they are not getting control of their own jungle as well. As you can see, the Spear of Destruction connects down onto Florin, brings him down preemptively. PX7 hides himself right under the nose of the turret, and he's going to be safe and sound while unleashing his feathered airstrike. Cloud9, they readies themselves for the turtle, albeit with Coldwell having only half HP. He should still be dominating enough to eventually jump right in if he really needs to.
Yeah, this Grok is a big problem. It's the wall, it's the crowd control.
I'm offended, connected down on the Mobile Zane, brings him down almost immediately. Dax takes the turtle and managing to contest for that. Cowell immediately flickers himself out of the way and is going to be safe and sound for now, or maybe not, as PX7 unleashes death coming in with the airstrike. Base is going to be the next one on the chopping block as well, as Dax brings him down preemptively too.
What a turnaround from Falcons. First of all, Flicker, I'm offended, takes down Mobile Zane, secures the turtle for Falcons, and a feather airstrike underneath the tier 1 to secure 3 more. That's recovery. Falcons a complete completely stopped, completely negated the lead that Cloud9 got after the first turtle, and Dax, he wants
Lead
more.
means nothing to the eyes of Falcon Esports. In the meantime, the Spirit of Destruction is just going to be connecting down to Kid X, while the Basic is just going to be focusing himself on Dex. But somehow Dex is going to be running away just fine.
Hey.
But Benny, he actually went in for the unoffended, which actually pulled the enemy closer to make Dex die. So unfortunately now, Benny went against the world. Cloud9 managed to clap back in that small, tiny little problem of Falcon Esports.
No, Benny saved Dax, but MarQT chased him down. He stole Dax's ultimate. He became the Lycan himself to get the kill. So Cloud9 again punishing, but this is the replay after the second turtle fight, right? Very good coordination from Falcon Esports, just letting Dax get the cleanup, letting him recover, catch up to Mobazane, at least making sure that the deficit isn't too bad, and then Cloud9 responds in kind. MarQT chases him down, Mobazane again cashes in on some kills, and Basic was able to find another one with the Spirit of Destruction, something that FCon gotta pay a bit of attention to, though. The global presence from the side of Cloud9 is not to be messed with. But at least FCon's deficit isn't that bad. They still keep it under 3k.
I mean, immaculate position coming in from PX7 thus far throughout the entirety of that fight. But for now, it does seem like Cloud9 is just going to be focusing on Royal Milk again. But Mobazane got pulled in, but I'm offended. And the aggressors, in turn, has been taken down instead. Mobazane now suffers a 20 seconds death timer onto themselves. And Falcon Esports focuses themselves in the middle lane, wanting to bring down this first defense turret in the middle lane. But MarQT is going to say no as much as possible, trying to whittle down all that ballista as fast as possible. While that push in the middle lane happened, Dax focuses on the turtle and gives good economy to the rest of the team.
Both teams just running it at each other with no impunity, with no regards. They just want to fight. This bomb tier 2 should go down to FCon. Unless Mielo can clear it, well, with the help of MarQT, definitely so. Again, Falcons keeping it within an arm's reach. In fact, Lycan form stolen by MarQT of all ultimates available.
Always ensuring that there is a nice gap between themselves and Cloud9. Falcon Esports is just pulling all of these gameplay as well as all this macro play just very effectively. They made sure that trades are trades. If they lose anyone, they will want to find something to recover from it altogether. So Falcon Esports, even from the previous game, right? We have seen before time and time again. They lose some members, but they will find another way to get themselves back on track.
Yeah. And Cloud9, after that skirmish, realizes that, man, we cannot one-shot Royal Milk anymore.
No way.
They're gonna try.
But looks like they are still definitely gonna be trying after all. They used quite a bit onto Royal Milk though. But now Royal Milk immediately jumping in for his quick little ultimate, but doesn't seem like the penalty zone actually did do anything at all.
Mielo misses the Daytona's welcome. Cold War's power of nature basically makes him CC immune to the penalty zone. So both teams just have to call it quits. You know, we tried, but nothing worked out. Probably it's time to get ready for the first Lord of the game. It's going to be spawned on top side, which will be taken care of by Royal Milk. Teresa is one of those few heroes that, yeah, you can kill him 10 times, 20 times, but eventually he is going to scale. He is going to be useful regardless, because he is the guy with the body of the Smith after all. So we'll see. His first Lord fight is going to be very, very important for both teams, especially if Falcons get their hands on it.
Now, what is the game plan here for Cloud9 though? Because we have constantly been seeing Mielo going in to initiate using the Dana's welcome. But time and time again, they don't have enough damage because they don't really quite seem to have that kind of battery to work with this kind of pick-off comp. Because Cloud9, they're just focusing on that time and time again and just not working. But we'll get back to that in a short bit as Basic just went in ham against PX7.
I was about to get to that as well, right? Having a Moskov gives you sort of global presence. Split push is very strong, and with PX7 down, Cloud9 would definitely get this floor. I don't see how Falcons can contest this. They don't have the floor out. But at the same time, Cloud9's draft has a lot more cloud control compared to game 1. Seems like Falcons, they still want to fight.
Does seem so. Mielo flickers himself out, but the penalty zone did manage to connect a little bit on Cold War, but he's not going to be caring about anything because he does have the power of nature. He's going to be fine for now. Royal Milk is going to be the first one onto the chopping block, and Cloud9 understands that that is probably the most that they can get from this, and they are going to be backing off and waiting for the next 11 seconds for the Lord to come out.
Yeah, they need PX7 to be around. Dax himself does not have enough damage. You can see he was trying his best to try and get someone into execution range, but they couldn't do it. And while all of that was happening, Basic just took down the bottom inhibitor. So Cloud9 not only got the Lord, won a team fight, picked off crucial targets, but also gets an inhibitor under 10 minutes, under 11 minutes. this is going to solidify them in the driver's seat for this game for sure. Definitely a lot more solid compared to game 1.
I mean, it's a very solid back and forth game. Like Falcon Esports as well as in Cloud9, it's very clear that both of these teams are pretty much on par with one another. And unfortunately, only one team will prevail. It's either a 1-1 in this best of 2 format, or it's a 2-0 in favor for Falcon Esports. But at this point in time, the script is writing for Cloud9 to be able to get themselves that one game against Falcon Esports to tie things up. The Lord is going to be marching in the bottom lane, but Cloud9, they want to merge the lanes. They want to ensure that the inhibitor turret in the middle lane will be destroyed. As such, PX7 focuses onto the feathered airstrike. He clears out the wave as much as possible and manages to defend. The rest of Falcon Esports now focuses on the top lane, but Cloud9, they want to get a little bit more. The Terizla just going to be jumping in, but it doesn't seem like they will be able to do too much from here at this point on. Mobazane is going to be the one that goes down second, but perhaps we'll get a third one, as Falcon Esports, they're not going to be stopping just yet. They get Milo down, and now another one when it comes down to it. I'm offended. We'll be able to connect on the basic as well as Marcuti. Basically was hoping that he will be able to turn things around, but Marcuti, he completely ditches him and goes back home.
Have you seen the Florian engage? Little Kid X flickers and throws out the soul to stun both Basic and Marcuti, and allowing Benny to get the second I'm offended, pulls Basic back, kill him off. Falcons, they still lost to Inhibitor, so that's a win for Cloud9 nonetheless. But again, Falcons refusing to go down, refusing to stay down. Manages a recovery. Unfortunately, they will not be able to get the mid-tier 2. Silver lining for Cloud9, but you look at the net worth for both teams, it's even.
Dead even, wow. Falcon Esports, they are definitely going to have a lot of problems when it comes down to the macro gameplay, needing to juggle the top lane and the bottom lane while trying to score something in the middle lane. Because understandably, the middle lane second tier defense turret, it will do quite a bit, right? But yeah, pretty much the replay gave us a very good idea of how the previous fight went through. But now we're going to be looking at the next one, as Royal Milk just going to be jumping in for the second hit onto the opponents, and he did manage to put out a pretty good penalty zone. But Wazane is going to be the first one taken down, while Falcon Esports is just going to be marching in the middle lane. Cloud9 completely spread out. No one can see where exactly Basic is. He's going to be fine and dandy for now, but I don't think anyone want to fight back again.
Yeah, and in Cloud9, the plan is very straightforward, right? We're going to start split pushing lane, we're going to start forcing you to come back to defend the base, because if you don't, we're going to tear it apart. Falcons, they're going to try to rush down the Lord as much as possible, and Cold War sees this. I think Benny just got caught, so Benny's going to go down.
Quick little terrifying. Marcuti brings him down. The Lord, 75 HP. Dax still managed to get it in his pocket in the end of the day. But they want more. They want blood. And they're swimming in the waters. As Marcuti is just going to be going for the IMU, taking away the ultimate of Dax. He's just going to be focusing down onto him as much as possible. Then as Welcome just going to be connected. But in the meantime, the front lines, we do have Cold War as well as Basic. They are focusing onto Royal Milk. But Basic's HP is not looking good. He immediately jumped himself backwards, and he's going to be fine for now. The penalty zone connects on the Royal Milk. He's just going to be stuck in there. And he's probably gonna go down, and the immortality popped. Cloud9, they're marching in. They will be able to take this core down if Royal Milk is not gonna clear things down. But where's the damage? They're unable to clear the core down.
No damage.
All alone to try to bring this core down, and he's probably gonna go down to the hands of Benny. Cloud9 tried to end this fast, and unfortunately wasn't able to do that. And now they face the Lord marching in the middle.
Yeah, try to take a sip of Royal Milk, people. He comes back, Festival of Blood, Blaze Mighty, one man fights off the entire Cloud9. And he healed up so much that Cloud9 just did not have the output once Basic got absolutely splattered by his hammer. And without Basic, there's no way Cloud9 can end the game. And especially with the lore, right? Your empowered minions allow Falcons to survive for a bit longer. Another lifeline game by Falcon, and Cloud9 coming so close for the second time in a row, but just not able to close it. And Falcons have managed the recovery 2 times in a row.
So close to tasting that sweet, sweet victory for Cloud9. They wanted to go for the 1-1 so bad, but it wasn't able to. So we're just going to be focusing on the present now. Cloud9, they did manage to make sure that the Lord did nothing to the middle lane at all. As you can see, the second tier defense turret is still standing up really tall, and they're completely they're gonna be a-okay about that. There's still about 1 minute until the Lord eventually appears, so both teams, they might actually want to play things a little bit more safe while still testing their distances against their opponents.
Yeah, the only advantage Cloud9 has over Falcons right now is that they have the silent inhibitors taken down. That is what's gonna, you know, prompt Falcons to defend their base every once in a while. That's something that I feel like Cloud9 should really start taking advantage of. And every time Falcons wants an objective, you force them to deviate from that, right? Push the silent in, threaten with your split push potential. You have a Moskov, one of the best structured destroyers. And Cloud9, they've been able to set up the side lanes for now, which means that they've given themselves control over the entire map.
At one point in time, Falcon Esports is definitely going to have a little bit of a difficulty when it comes down to clearing up waves. But it does seem like we do have Ruby that is just going to be picking up a couple of good items here just to solidify more damage to actually clear waves out, because he did manage to pick up a Sea Halberd on himself instead of the typical kind of Dominus Ice to get a little bit more defense whatsoever. So Benny as well as Royal Milk, they're going to be a-okay. When it comes down to clearing wave, they got an AoE, that's all fine and dandy.
Yeah, the lack of wave clip definitely is going to be a slight detriment for Falcons Esports, right? It's why you see Bombazine just got the Endless Battle and he's working on that Lord. This Lord could help Cloud9 basically win the game over Falcons Esports after so long. And Falcons, they know that they have to contest this.
If they don't contest for this, it is probably going to be game over. But Falcon, they're testing the opponents. They're waiting for the perfect opportunity. But the quick little reset from Cloud9, even Cloud9 themselves understand what kind of threat that they're looking out for. This game could quite literally go to anyone here.
Yeah, and Benny knows this, right? Which is why he's waiting to see where Basic is. But Basic has used his ultimate. This is the chance. Falcons, let's see if they can make this happen.
As Royal Milk takes his first stand in the front lines, he's going to be holding on to the Lord for a tad little bit. But there's the flicker as well. That as well coming in from Milo, just going to be connecting down. But oh, the heals coming in from KidX ensures that Dex will be able to stay alive for a little while longer. But it doesn't seem like they will be able to do too much.
Basic!
Now, it's just going to be Marcute. He's just going to be holding on to the back. But basically, he's just going to be jumping over to the back lines and focusing down onto the core as much as possible. They push in. It's all left with KidX. Royal Milk and Benny is nowhere to be seen. Never mind, Royal Milk is now here. Is it really even gonna be enough? Basically just dealing immaculate damage over to KidX. They want to end this fast enough, but Basic is just gonna be jumping around with a slip of health. Both of them, they're gonna be fine though. All of these lanes just gonna be pushing right in. Even with the Lord, Cloud9 have got nothing that could help bolster the damage of this Lord to help them to even end this game. The split push is tried and unfortunately wasn't done right.
At least Basic got the last inhibitor down, but with Dex back in the game, Basic no help. They cannot end the game just yet. Falcon still hanging on. And you would think with everything that had happened, Cloud9 would have at least a goal lead, even at a point where it doesn't matter. But no, Falcons Esports are just resilient. It feels like they defy death themselves. And again, Cloud9, the only advantage that they have is that they got the Lord. Good control from Mielo, the flicker, Daytona's Welcome to literally stop Dax from having any effectiveness in that fight. If Dax got the Lord, we would have a completely different story. But Falcons Esports truly trial and tested and now put in the most damning disadvantage that they've ever faced in this BO2 against Cloud9. But it really feels like recovery is just a stone throws away.
It's all about that split push potential that Cloud9 could potentially just throw over at Falcon. Especially since Falcon wants to play team fight. They want to go all in as a death ball. But Falcons, I think it really boils down to information. Can they even grab all of these information? Can Benny and Royal Milk even brave all of these finest warriors in Cloud9? Walk past all of them and see, is Basic even there in the team fight? Because if Basic isn't there, they can expect that Basic will be coming in from the side lanes and try to end the game sneakily.
Yeah, it's starting to be a bit difficult for Falcons to take care of the waves, and you're seeing it, right? The wave clear isn't exactly the best from Falcons Esports. They're feeling the heat right now. All inhibitors down, which means these minions are going to be incredibly durable. Immortality onto Mielo as well. This last Lord, Cloud9, have priority from start until finish. And if they can catch Dax one more time, I think Cloud9 surely will win this game. But what am I to say, right? Falcons have defied the impossible for so many times.
Time and time again, they showed us what exactly that they are made of. But looking at limitations, Falcon Esports definitely have got all of that limitations put onto them as to how they can clear the waves, right? Even Benny focused on more offensive scenario, or rather offensive alternatives from the Dominus Ice. It definitely managed to help them in clearing up the waves in the later part of the game. But 20 minutes onwards, trying to clear all of these mega creeps, I think that is definitely going to be tough.
They want Dax bottom side.
Doesn't seem like...
Dax gets away. Hey, they still
nice
want him.
Flicker coming in from Cold World with the wild charge, but it doesn't seem like they will be able to isolate anyone at all. As such, Falcon Esports, all 4 men, is just focusing down on him as much as possible, bringing the Grok down. Royal Milk, though, he puts himself at the top lane to give more information. But Cloud9, the main part of the game, is down in the bottom lane, as Marcuti is going to be taken down now. The offenders are connecting down on basic. As such, the Immortality is going to be taken down. And that is going to be him going down right now. Cloud9 did manage to bring the Lord down, sure, but we have a full 4 men from Falcons that will be knocking onto the door on Cloud9.
Yo, Kidax with the Winter Crown baited Basic and Marcuti in, allowing Dax to turn it around. But again, like you said, Cloud9 got the Lord at least 21 minutes in. This is straight up an evolved Lord. Falcons, they gotta deal with the wave. This is not gonna be easy, but at least Axe gets the mid-tier 2. And I mean, Falcons was able to buy so much time because Royal Milk sacrificed himself to stall out the Lord take as much as possible. They should have time to whittle down the Lord at least and give PX7 space to clear out the side waves.
I don't think that they will be able to bring the game to the end at this point in time just yet. But it is all just pretty much going to be a wet noodle fight. As now Benny is just going to be going with the Armor Feather with quickly Flicker coming from Star Milo. He's going to be safe and sound for now. But Benny is just healing up so much. He's not going to die at all. As now Falcon Esports, they do have PX7 coming in now. The wall charge doesn't seem
Milo misses
Milo, he didn't go for the dead as welcome. Did not commit to anyone at all. Dax gets himself a mega kill. Brings Milo down. That is one of the tough front lines coming from Cloud9 that would really help them to defend this upcoming push from Falcons potentially.
I cannot believe what I'm watching right now, Abstract. Benny, the damage from the Ruby stacking up. Milo misses Daytona's welcome. Basic misses the Spear of Destruction. Crucial ultimates that Cloud9 needed to land to stop Falcons. Again, good news, Cloud9 has not lost an inhibitor
Yet.
It's crazy. It's crazy to look at this and be like, the only reason Cloud9 has not lost the game yet is because they got an early inhibitor early on, or else I think Falcons would have closed up shop like, what, 10 minutes ago?
Probably.
But we get to see another potential Lord fight between these 2 teams, and Falcons continues to defy the odds.
They're breaking every rule out there. Falcon Esports slated to lose a couple of these team fights, but somehow still managed to come back time and time again. But now Falcon Esports, they did seem like they will want to get a hit down on the MOBA Zane, as now Royal Milk jumps in. His penalty zone connected to the MOBA Zane. A very crucial take. They manages to bring 2% down from Cloud9. And with the Lord that will be popping up in 40 seconds with a death timer of 1 minute on Cloud9, this is gonna be detrimental to Cloud9.
Absolute cinema from Falcons. Cax, another Winter Crown. And Milo had to use his ult to get away. Basic not able to get a split push going. I don't think Falcons can get an inhibitor, but they sure as hell have been able to manage the minion wave the best they can. 1 cannon still remains. Penalty
jumping
zone.
on to Marcuti, but it doesn't seem like Marcuti will be phased at all.
Basic zone landed.
Down onto the Terizla, but Royal Milk immediately popping up with the crown, and he's gonna be safe and sound for now. With this one ballista, will they be able to make the dream work and bring down the first inhibitor turret for this game?
A comeback of a century. Can you imagine? Can you believe this? Day 1 of the MSC group stage, and we're seeing this on stream be graced by Falcons Esports. This is what? Lord number 5. Cloud9. Mobile Zane just came back to life. Can they make it there in time? I don't think it's possible. Falcons should have this in the back.
Constantly playing from behind. Falcon Esports, they are well versed in play from behind, and they are not afraid of anything at all. In the meantime, the trades between Milo as well as Royal Milk is just going to be ensuing, but that is not going to be the catalyst of starting a new fight.
Unyielding spirits from Falcons. Now Lord finally in their hands after a grueling almost 25 minutes. Just beaten and battered, but not down just yet. Lord will be on the bottom side because that's where the inhibitor is down. Falcons looking to take up as much space as possible, and it's Cloud9's turn to be on the defense, to stick together. Falcons is just going to let the Lord auto escort the wave, and that's going to give them openings to start threatening the remaining structures on the side of Cloud9. And I think Royal Milk just got his immortality back. I mean, the cooldown has already come back up. And that means another life for Royal Milk, who is just man-fighting MOBA Zane.
Doesn't seem like MOBA Zane's damage output, all those true damage, is really doing anything at this point in time. We're not looking at a lot of high HP heroes from the side of Falcon Esports. In fact, it is just so sustainable. And we are amplifying that with Kidex, with his ultimate, and they're not afraid of anything. But for now, Grok comes in from behind. Coldwell was hoping that he will be able to get to the final with the wild shot, doing nicely, but 4 more the penalty zone! Coming in, Royal Milk! They clean things up, and Cloud9, they suffers another defeat to the hands of Falcon Esports.
And the Falcons soar above Cloud9 into infinity and beyond. The sky is no longer the limits. Myanmar putting a mark on the MSC stage, completely shattering the hopes of North America. Can you believe